Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrett McDaniel, and we have a great show for you guys today where we'll be diving in to the Genesis Scottish Open tournament that just went on, well, for me, last night, but I got to wake up, watch some of the action this morning. It was some fun golf. The leaderboard looks pretty good for this Thursday. Looks like it's going to shape up for a good weekend of golf. We'll be talking about that. Our first two segments. And then our third segment, we're going to be discussing Scottie Scheffler withdraws from the Genesis Scottish Open. Why did he withdraw? With tournaments coming up, you would think that he wants to be in this one, but he had a better idea for how he wants to take this weekend. We'll be discussing all about that and just looking more into his season in the third segment. And in the fourth segment, we'll be talking about the rest of the world in golf this week. That includes Live Golf and the ISCO Championship, the parallel PGA Tour event this weekend. And then in our fifth and final segment of the night, we'll be discussing my picks and predictions for the Genesis Scottish Open. But before we get into all of that, as always, guys, if you want to become a bigger part of the show than you guys already are, help support the GSMC Sports Network in more ways than you guys already do. Use the tips and donations link at the GSMCpodcast.net. It goes a long way helping out all the creators here at the GSMC Sports Network, and it is much appreciated. So with that being said, we're going to get right into this first segment, giving the course breakdown of the Genesis Scottish Open, as we've grown so accustomed to doing here on these Thursday podcasts. Genesis Scottish Open, this tournament plays pretty easy. It plays about 1.3 strokes under par average to the field, which means that these guys can just go out there and just put together a good round. This is kind of how last week played. I don't envision somebody going 28 under. That's just absolutely insane. Davis Thompson was playing some great golf and is still playing some great golf. We'll be getting to talk about him in the second segment. But for this tournament, it's not gonna be 28 under, but it's gonna be around 20 under for the posted lead, and we do have a good leaderboard to talk about. But of course, with the course breakdown, we're gonna of course be looking at Justin Thomas's round from today, see what kind of shots he took on the par 4 first hole. It is a 464-yard par 4. It is the 8th hardest hole on the golf course. Plays very even. It is very, parable. Not a lot of bogeys, only 19 bogeys and 3 double pluses here today. Double pluses from Olesen, Arnaus, and Luke List in this first round. But other than that, it played pretty easy. Just hit the fairway and you got a good shot at birdie. The only guys that found real bogeys were the guys that ended in the rough. There's only a handful of guys that found bogey from the fairway, only like 6 or 7 of them on this first hole from the day. So it plays a little bit easier. It's kind of just a straightaway tee box over here. Green is pretty straightforward. Just hit the fairway. It's a narrow fairway, so it's harder to hit. And as it is a pattern on this entire golf course, the fairways are just so up and down. Like, they're so hilly. We're used to seeing a lot more straightaway fairways that don't have a lot of terrain on them, but these fairways look pretty difficult to play off of, so they're not guaranteed birdies from the fairways. That's why we see a lot of pars. It was possible to say par from the rough as well. These guys, for the most part, took it about 260, and Justin Thomas actually bombed away on the first tee here on the par 4 first. He hit 340 with his driver to give him a 120 into the pin. He got a birdie on that, opened his round pretty well. So that is the par 4 first hole. Second hole is another par 4. It is about 500 yards. This one today played 493. Guys deciding to really play about 300, about a 3-wood or a short driver here. A huge clump of pars. This hole played very difficult. Not a lot of birdies, but the birdies that were made, 8 birdies made, 6 of them came out of the fairway. So hit the fairway, you'll give yourself a good opportunity at getting a green in regulation. But this hole, 4th hardest hole on the golf course, plays 0.130 above par. It is a difficult one of the more difficult ones on the entire front 9. That does play a little bit easier. Next hole is the par 5, 600-yard third. It plays about half of a stroke under par. So many birdies. There were more birdies than there were pars on this hole today, and there were 4 eagles as well. The eagles were really from the long tees, from the long drives. The guys that were able to drive it about, Rory McIlroy got an eagle on this hole. Looking at his scorecard, he drove it. He drove it about 330 yards. So drive it far, be very confident, be very aggressive, and it is very easy to be able to get a good score on that hole. Birdie's a must on that hole, basically. It is 600 yards, so difficult for me to say, but birdie is definitely a must for these guys on that one. Next up, 422 par 4 fourth hole. It does play under par. 12th, the par 5 third hole is the easiest hole on the golf course, by the way. The par 4 fourth hole is the 12th hardest hole on the golf course. So the 8th, or not the 8th, no. The 7th easiest hole on the golf course. This hole is a dogleg right from the tee box. If you get your drive down like 310, 320, it puts you in a really good spot to then take that right hand turn onto the green. Plays a little bit easier, only 18 bogeys and 37 birdies. 24% of the field birdied this hole, 63% of the field parred this hole. So, that comes out to about 88% of the field had a par or better on this hole. Makes it pretty easy. So that is why it plays almost a tenth of, or more than a tenth of a stroke under par. The next hole also plays over a tenth of a stroke under par. It plays minus 180. It is a drivable par 4. It is 338 yards. There were a couple guys that did drive the par 4 fifth. It's really weird because 2 guys drove the par 4 fifth here. Both of those guys ended with a par. If you're driving a green on a par 4, you got to at least end with a birdie. I mean, you have to end with a birdie. Both guys that were able to drive it, which were Hill and Alexander Bjork, were the ones that were able to drive it. Just somehow unable to come up with a score there. That is very shocking, but that's golf, isn't it? Both of those guys didn't have too great of a day, and maybe around the greens is why, but this hole does play pretty easy. 101 pars, 40 birdies. The green is very volatile, very difficult, but if you land on the top shelf of this green where the pin was today, it makes it a little bit easier. And in the back part, the green funnels to the back part, there will be a day that the pin will be over there, and that day is when a lot of people will score. This might be the easiest hole on the golf course on that day. Next up, the par 3 6th, a simple par 3 that found the field really struggling to hit the green in regulation. A lot of guys played very aggressive on this one. Nobody really electing to go in the middle of the green. A lot of guys just attacking the pin, and when it worked out for them, when they hit the green attacking the pin, it almost always resulted in a birdie. However, a lot of guys missed the green short or hit into the bunkers. That resulted in bogeys and double bogeys, as these bunkers are very hard to get out of. So aggressive works until it doesn't. I mean, it's all, that's what golf is. Next up, the third hardest hole on the golf course is a par 4, 505 yard. Really got a bomb away on this tee shot, and that's what a lot of guys did. But still coming up with a lot of bogeys here. It's guys like Xander Schauffele, Ricky Fowler, Luke List coming up. Jordan Spieth came up with a bogey on this hole. It does play very difficult, especially if you miss the fairway. A lot of guys did miss the fairway on their first shot. And then the second shots made it, all over the screen and all over the fairway for the second shot. When you miss the green on the second shot, it almost always resulted in a bogey here for these guys today. Next up, after that par 4 7th, is the par 4 8th. A lot of par 4s on this front 9. There are 6 of them on the front 9, and there are 6 of them on the front 9, 4 of them on the back 9. So a lot of par 3s on the back nine. So get through these par 4s. A lot of them play pretty difficult except for the 338-yard one. But this one, number 10, one of the dead middle holes on this golf course. There's a little bit of water. Off the tee box to the right should be completely out of play for these guys. They are PGA pros. But for their first shot, basically hit it into the fairway, results in birdies. Almost all the birdies came from the fairway on this hole. When you missed the fairway, when it was all around the place, that's when you ended up with a lot of pars. There's also bunkers on the right-hand side and in the fairway that makes it a little bit more difficult for these guys on this 8th hole. Justin Thomas was able to birdie this hole after putting in a drive 277 yards with the 3-wood and then hitting 160 into the green, just hitting the pin almost perfectly. That capped off a run of 4 straight birdies that we'll be surely talking about. Next up, the par 3 9th is another difficult hole. It is the 5th most difficult hole on this golf course. Miss the green, you're in for a rough day. Hit the green, you can definitely birdie. There were more bogeys than birdies on this hole today. That was in result of a lot of guys missing the green. A lot of pars from the green. The guys that were able to put it right onto the flagstick were the ones that were able to birdie this, like Billy Horschel, Mackenzie Hughes, Sungjae Im was able to get a birdie, Corey Connors, because they were aggressive and put it right on the flagstick. When you ended up towards the top of the screen, like Emiliano Grillo or Nick Taylor or Doug Gim, you ended up with a par. Next up, the par 5 10th, the 16th hardest hole on the golf course, so 30 is easiest hole. It had 2 eagles or better, 67 birdies and 76 pars, almost more birdies than pars. That is an easy hole. It played about 4 strokes. It played about 4/10 of a stroke under par, with a lot of guys being able to get birdies, like Aaron Rai, Colin Morikawa, Brian Harman, Ricky Fowler. A lot of drives ended up in the same exact area. It's when they missed the fairway was when they had troubles with bogeys. Next up, the par 4 11th, 475 yards. Same thing here. Drive, very consistent. These guys, just the spray chart for these drives, just landing in the fairway, and then the ones that ended outside the fairway were the ones with the bogeys. This is another kind of dogleg right as well. Plays very similar to the one that we talked about earlier. Hit it about 310, 320 yards, and then you'll have a good shot into the flag. Next up is the par 3 12th, 204 yards, hit the green. It's par 3s, you just need to hit the green. The bogeys came from off the green, almost all of them, besides 1 bogey from on the green. Or, sorry, 2 bogeys from on the green. But that's just some bad putting. You got to hit your putts as well. These flagsticks were close right for the most part, so played pretty difficult, honestly, for these flagsticks. Next up, par 4 13th. Plays under par, tied for the 8th easiest hole or 8th hardest hole on the golf course. A lot of birdies. Basically, this weekend comes to around the green play. Really, it kind of plays very similar to how we saw Pinehurst number 2 play. A lot of difficult holes and a lot of difficult situations that you'll find yourself in, but if you're able to rise up to the occasion, you can absolutely go out and win a day like Rory McIlroy was able to do on Saturday or something like that with the U.S. Open. Next up is another par 3, 161-yard par 3. What am I going to say? Hit the green. This one ended up with a lot more birdies. There were 48 birdies from this hole and only 7 bogeys. There were a few bogeys from on the green and 5 from off the green here. Next up, 488-yard par 4 15th. Plays pretty difficult. It is the most difficult hole on the golf course. Just such a narrow fairway, and it's one of those fairways that you just need to figure out what you really want to do. If you miss the narrow part that is at around 300 yards, it's either you hit it into a narrow part of a fairway at 300 yards, or you go for 320, 330, and there's fairway bunkers on the right side with a little bit more speed. Can get a lot of these guys in trouble. So this was one of the more difficult holes one of the more difficult decisions these guys face. Next up, par 5 16th. This is the second easiest hole on the golf course. 576-yard par 5. Hit it into the fairway. You'll be good. Justin Thomas was unable to hit it into the fairway. Had to go for an alternate round that took him into the rough with his second shot on the layup shot and able to 2-putt it for par. Next up, par 3 17th. 203 yards. This is the 7th hardest hole on the golf course. Hit the green and you'll be in a good spot. That's just what par 3s are. Par 4 18th, the second hardest hole on the golf course, 483 yards. You can definitely attack the green, but this is a good up and down opportunity like Justin Thomas did. So that's how the golf course plays. Pretty straightforward, but with a lot of difficult fairways. So we'll talk about more what that means for these guys in this field come segment 5. But when I come back for my first break of the night, after I did conclude talking about the course breakdown, we'll be talking about the leaderboard breakdown from Thursday's action.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and we have a great show for you. I just went to overdrive and started going off of my first segment. No, we have had a great show so far through the first segment, and now we're on to our second segment talking about Thursday's leaderboard breakdown. Sorry, my mind absolutely drew a blank there. I do not know why. But anyways, Thursday's leaderboard from the Genesis Scottish Open. I talked about how I expect guys with really good wedge play to do well this weekend. And that kind of proved to be true, with Justin Thomas being one of the best guys on tour with stats, around the green. Actually, right now, I'm going to pull up the PGA Tour official page looking at the stats around the green, because I feel like that would be very indicative on who's going to be doing well today. Just strokes gained around the green, Justin Thomas is 3rd. Davis Thompson is 5th. Other guys, Scottie Scheffler, who's not in this field, but Alex Noren is 12th, Colin Morikawa 13th, Tony Finau 17th. These guys I expect to do good. Tommy Fleetwood 25th. I expect them to do good this weekend, and that really shows up here with Tommy Fleetwood tied for 8th right now. Tommy Fleetwood tied for 8th with Colin Morikawa up there as well. Nick Taylor, who's another good wedge player around the green. Mackenzie Hughes is pretty good around the green. He's tied for 23rd at 4 under. And a lot of these guys that have good wedge play are towards the top of the leaderboard. Sungjae Im, Justin Thomas are both really good around the green, and they are 1st and 2nd. Justin Thomas today was fantastic. Up until the last run of 5 holes, he was 8 under through 13. He had 5 more holes to play. Unfortunately, couldn't extend the lead. I think the course record is a 61 here at the Genesis Scottish Open. He wasn't able to break it, but he did put himself in great contention for just overall this weekend. He's now going to be one of the favorites, or he is actually the odds-on favorite right now to win this golf tournament. And for Justin Thomas, it's been a long time since he's been really in contention. For Justin Thomas, this year has been difficult for him. He's seen himself towards the top of the FedEx Cup rankings. He's 17th right now going into this weekend. He had a T5 at the Travelers that put him into good, on the good foot, but cut at the U.S. Open, T33 at the Memorial. It was a T8 at the PGA Championship, T21 at the Wells Fargo, T5 at the RBC Heritage, but he was cut at the Masters. So cut at 2 of the 3 majors of this season, cut at the Players as well, cut at the other Genesis tournament, the Genesis Invitational. Just a difficult season so far for Justin Thomas. Looking to now kind of turn it around with a good event at the Travelers Championship. That kind of 2 weeks he's able to take a reset during the Rocket Mortgage and the John Deere Classic, which he was able to do and put it to good use. And now, I mean, he's playing some good golf right now. Just looking at his Polygon, his strokes gained approaching the green is 8th. His strokes gained around the green is 3rd. His strokes gained total is 27th. So losing a lot with putting and losing a lot off the tee. But this weekend is going to be about those irons and wedges, and he is one of the best on tour with them in hand. It used to be his buddy Jordan Spieth, who has kind of fallen off, and now it's Justin Thomas. Sungjae Im, who is second right now, 7 under, 1 stroke back of Justin Thomas. He also is playing some good golf. Off the tee is where he usually makes a name for himself, but around the green he's 35th in strokes gained overall. He's a pretty good putter. Just overall a well-rounded game, and his results recently kind of shows that. He's been a professional for the last 9 years since he was 17 years old, so he's kind of used to these tournaments, right? But on the PGA Tour, he has not had he's not been unbelievably impressive. Only 2 wins in his entire career. He has 5 top 10s, however. This year, without a win, a T3 at the Travelers, a T8 at the Memorial, a T9 at the Charles Schwab, T4 at the Wells Fargo, just all around the leaderboard. Unable to get a win, however. This could be the weekend that he breaks through. He's been playing some fantastic golf. I've been talking about him a lot recently. He definitely could go out and win this one. He is, I believe, 4th favorite in odds right now, behind a couple of guys that we'll be talking about here. Ludwig Oberg is another guy putting himself into contention. Of course, he is tied for 3rd with 5 other guys. Maximilian Kiefer, Hao Tong Lee, Thomas Dietrich, and Justin Lauer are all tied at 6 under, but really the one I want to talk about is Ludwig Oberg. He is a fantastic golfer. I say it so often whenever I get to talk about him. He has the most pure swing on the entire tour. I love his swing. I love how it looks. And he's able to make a mockery of par 5s. And today, through the par 5s, there's 3 of them on this golf course. He was 4 under. I think that's something I'm going to be watching out for. On 16, he got a eagle. On 10, he had a birdie from a 2-putt. He had a birdie from a 2-putt, and then he had another birdie from up and down. So able to play some good golf this weekend. Found himself in a couple of roughs, and that is where it got difficult for him. On the par 4 5th hole, where it's 338 yards, tried to drive the green, however came up short and landed in the bunker, and that made him lay up on it, which just he put himself into a very difficult spot, ended up with a bogey there. His 8th hole ended up with a bogey after his 2nd shot ended up in the rough. So if this guy is able to avoid roughs, he is a fantastic golfer, but he did have 8 under through the other 16 holes. So I think he hit 15 out of 18 greens in regulation as well, which is so impressive. There was I think it actually is the par, I think it's 8. I think it was the 8th hole where his ball landed on top of Colin Morikawa's ball, and that's how he ended up into the rough off of his 2nd shot. It landed on Colin's ball, sent it flying off the green to the right. I think it was on this par 4 8th that happened. Just such a tough break. I mean, what are you going to do about that? Ended up, however, 6 under on the day, put himself right in contention at T3. Only 2 back of Justin Thomas, and Ludwig Oberg is a guy that can definitely catch you easily. Rory McIlroy, another guy that's in contention. Tommy Fleetwood as well. I'll kind of talk about these guys in the same breath here. Both of them played some fantastic golf. Both of them playing kind of back in Scotland. Of course, Tommy Fleetwood's from England, and Rory McIlroy's from Northern Ireland. So 2 other countries in the UK, but any course in the UK kind of plays very similarly. And when you get that, familiarity in a game, it makes it a little bit easier for these guys. So I expect big things, especially from Tommy Fleetwood. We'll talk about him more in the 5th segment. Byung-Hun An is also at 5 under. Colin Morikawa 5 under. And that's kind of it for the big names. Some guys that didn't play too well today, although I expected them to. I feel like I don't even need to say this anymore for him, but it's Jordan Spieth. Just not a good day. I think he finished 1 over. Ricky Fowler finished 3 over. 2 guys that just aren't playing good golf, and I haven't played good golf in a very long time. Hideki Matsuyama at 1 over. However, I expected a little bit more from him. Will Zalatoris at 1 over. Can't wait to see that guy, play some good golf again. I do miss when he is good. But other than that, not too many other big names doing too poorly. Justin Rose at 1 under at T77. You could consider that poorly. Xander Schauffele 1 under at T77 as well. But there are still 3 more days of this competition. I wouldn't be sounding the alarm bells for those guys just yet if you have a slip of them. But yeah, the leaderboard looks like it's going to shape up to be a fun weekend. You have other guys that are kind of on the tail of the guys that separated themselves from the pack, like Bobby McIntyre, Victor Hovland, Austin Eckroat, Max Homa. All of those guys are 3 under, can definitely make a splash tomorrow. Sahith Theegala at 4 under can definitely make a splash tomorrow. So I can't wait to see how this tournament progresses as always. But that'll wrap it up for this second segment, talking about the Thursday leaderboard and what happened today at the Genesis Scottish Open. When I come back from my break, we'll be talking about Scottie Scheffler and him withdrawing from the Genesis Scottish Open.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and we are off to our third segment of the night, talking about Scottie Scheffler withdrawing from the Genesis Scottish Open. So why did he withdraw? Well, he is on vacation. Much earned vacation. However, I'm a little bit shocked about this. He decided to take vacation this week. He went to Colorado with Meredith, his newborn son. Of course, Meredith Scheffler being his wife, his newborn son, and a couple of buddies. They did play golf. He has he posted some pictures on Twitter about it. So he decided to go on vacation this weekend leading up to a major instead of actually go. Here's the thing. The reason that this field is so, full for this weekend compared to what we've, it's a similar event to the Rocket Mortgage Classic the Rocket Mortgage or the John Deere Classic. All 3 of these events aren't signature events. I mean, all of them have a $9 million purse. All of them are only worth 500 FedEx Cup points. None of them are the elevated fields that we are used to seeing here. So why are we seeing this full field? Well, it is a tournament in Scotland. You know what also is in Scotland literally in 1 week from now? The Open Championship, the 4th and final major of the year. That's why all these guys are there. It's the only reason. These guys are getting acclimated to the conditions that you're going to face in Scotland, because it is difficult to go from playing in America every single week to going and playing in overseas. The courses play completely different compared to America to England. So to see Scottie Scheffler decide to not play this weekend, I'm shocked about it. And what I mean, it's his decision, and good on him to take time for his family since he became a father. He became a father a few weeks ago now. He said in an interview, I think maybe my prep would have been a little bit better for this week if I was at home after the U.S. Open. He said that, I'm obviously not going to skip Jack's tournament. It's a tournament I love playing. It's a tournament that I'm humbled to be a champion at. I feel like going forward, I'll maybe do things a little bit differently in the weeks leading up to the majors, especially when it's going to be a challenging setup at a U.S. Open. So he talked about after the U.S. Open, after he played pretty poorly in the U.S. Open, finishing pretty far down. He finished T41 at the U.S. Open, that he felt like the preparation was a little off, doing things a little bit differently, being a little bit more at home leading up to it would have been better for him. And that's why he plays poorly. So that's why, the assumption for why he isn't at the Genesis Scottish Open, but I still think I don't know. I think it's a shocking decision. It's his decision. I'm not going to say if it's the correct or the wrong decision, because at the end of the day, he knows better about his life and his golf game than I ever could. But I'm still a little bit shocked about it, because you have the PGA Tour does this schedule on purpose. Like, it's well thought out, right? You have guys sit in a room to come up with things like this. Like, well, if you're going to send them overseas, you're going to want them to be implemented. We don't know what he is doing for this weekend. We know that he was in Colorado for a vacation last week and at the early parts of this week, but we don't know what he's doing this weekend, whether or not he is getting implemented to the time change, because that's another big thing. He lives in Texas, which is Central Time. That is 6 hours difference from Texas to overseas. When he goes overseas, he loses 6 hours in a day. So I would say get over there as quick as possible, because that's difficult. You feel jet lag when you go from New York to LA. And then, to go from Texas to Scotland is way different. So we'll see what, comes from this, how, what preparation he does leading up to it. Once again, he knows his body way better than I do. He knows his mind way better than I do. So you got to just trust that he's making the right decision. But it is still a decision that I'm shocked about. So, just for this, what does it mean for, Scottie Scheffler? He's already won 6 times this year. What does a major mean for him, though? Well, it would be okay. If he were to be able to win his second major of the year, this would be one of the best seasons in tour history. Scheffler needs to win 3 more times this season in order to match Tiger Woods and Vijay Singh for 9 wins in a PGA Tour season. That seems pretty unlikely, but you do have 4 more tournaments that he'll be playing in 2024. You have the Open Championship, you have the FedEx St. Jude Championship, where he'll have or it's the Tour Championship that he'll have a 2-stroke lead. But BMW Championship and the Tour Championship. So 4 more events. If he can win 3 of those, that would be absolutely insane. But in his last 10 PGA Tour starts, he's won 6 events. He won at the Arnold Palmer. He won at the Players Championship. He won at the Masters, RBC Heritage, the Memorial, and the Travelers. Failing to win at the Houston Open, the Charles Schwab, by only 1 spot. Both of those were T2. T2 events for him. He's having a fantastic season. I mean, he has already beaten a record that by Woods that many deem to be unbeatable with the most money earned in a season. So it's impressive just what he's doing, but he has had an opportunity now to, do something historic, and he just isn't able, he just isn't putting himself in the best positions to do it, which is a little bit disappointing. But hey, once again, I don't know if he's really thinking about having the most PGA Tour wins in a season. I just think that he wants really the majors for him. He wants to be able to win things that are, it's more legacy building to win a major than to win 8 events in a season. He's already won 6, which is, I think, only Tiger Woods and Vijay Singh have 6 or more wins in a season. So he's already has done something that only 3 people now have done, and only 2 before him. So already doing some legendary stuff. I'm excited to see Scottie Scheffler play. All this to say, I just want to see the history in the making. It's always fun to see that, and him not playing this weekend means that we are just delaying, if history were to happen, we're delaying it another week, which is a little bit unfortunate. But he does withdraw from the Genesis Scottish Open. There are 4 events now that he will be playing in. He will also be able to play in the Olympics, so whether or not you're going to count that if he does win gold medal there, whether or not you would count that at or as a something on his resume for this year. I think that could be a discussion as well, because he is having one of the best seasons that we've seen on the PGA Tour, excluding Tiger Woods, ever. So very impressive stuff from Scottie Scheffler. He is the number 1 player in the world, but he will not be at the Genesis Scottish Open because he's with his family. You got to give it to the man. He just had a newborn son. You do want to spend time with a newborn son. It does make sense. So that'll wrap it up for the third segment of the night, talking about Scottie Scheffler withdrawing from the Genesis Scottish Open. When I come back from my third break of the night, we'll be talking about the rest of the world in golf this weekend.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and we're here with our 4th segment of the night, talking about the rest of the world in golf this weekend with a jam-packed schedule in golf. We have Live Golf Tour, we have PGA Tour, we have European Tour, we have, I'm pretty sure the DP World Tour is on, in Scotland, because it is the merger event with the DP World Tour with the Genesis Scottish Open, but still many other tours going on. I think I saw something from, I think it was CBS on Golf. They said that there were 7 events going all the way down to amateurs this weekend, so a lot happening. I'm going to start with the ISCO Championship, the one that I'm probably most excited about. This is where a lot of the guys that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks that had played in the Rocket Mortgage, that played in the John Deere, this is where a lot of them are right now. Instead of at the Genesis Scottish Open, they are at the ISCO Championship. This is an opportunity. I believe this is an opportunity for, I think it's a $9 million purse and 500 FedEx Cup. Or it's a $4 million purse and 300 FedEx Cup points up for grabs. Recent winners: Grayson Murray has won this event. Seamus Power has won this event. This event dates back all the way to 2014, 2015. So some good names that have won this event. it isn't, it isn't the most prestigious event, but it is a PGA Tour event, and it will go in their, PGA Tour wins. Hayden Springer got out today to an 8 under start. 64 opening round is pretty impressive. It was also all eyes on Pearson Coody, who finished 11 under 61 today, birdieing all but 7 holes today. Very, very, very impressive stuff from him. A bogey-free card as well. But the bigger names that I want to talk about in this event, you have Matt Neesmith is in this event at 5 under. You have S.H. Kim at 5 under as well. Garrick Higo at 5 under. Neil Shipley finished 5 under. I always love watching this kid golf. Of course, fellow Buckeye here in Neil Shipley. He is playing in his now 4th or 3rd PGA Tour event. He's been playing some good golf, and it can only go up from here. Finished around top 30 last weekend, and now he's T23 right now, but he can definitely improve. He was 7 under at one point today as well. Very impressive scorecard from Neil Shipley with only 2 bogeys and 7 birdies. Joel Damon is here, T43 at 4 under. This is an opportunity for him to help his case out in the FedEx Cup standings as well. JJ Spawn, 3 under. David Lipsky, 3 under. Sam Ryder, 3 under. Some guys that we see, consistently in the fields for the main PGA Tour events. Luke Clanton, who came into this weekend as the odds-on favorite. This was the first ever time in PGA Tour history that an amateur came into event as the odds-on favorite. However, hasn't been able to live up to the hype, the expectation. He finished T84 at 2 under, but he can definitely turn it around. And then the last guy I want to talk about, of course, is Michael Thorbjornsen, who finished 1 over today, and T133 probably will be cut tomorrow, as the cut line will probably sit around 4 under, 5 under, and he is well off of it at 5 or 6 strokes back, whatever it ends up being. For Michael, it was a very volatile scorecard. He has an eagle, a triple bogey, 3 other bogeys, and 3 birdies. It's just a very difficult day for him. It was just a blow up on the tee, on the easiest hole on the golf course. The par 5 15th hole, he sent 2 drives, OB left. And then his 3rd drive for his 5th shot, he ended up in the rough on the same side that he went OB almost, or that he went OB twice on. For Michael Thorbjornsen, it could have been a way better card, but a kind of blow up on 15 led to a more difficult day than really he wanted. But that is the other PGA Tour event that is running parallel to the Genesis Scottish Open. As for the Live Golf event, it is in, and I'm gonna absolutely butcher the pronunciation. It's in Spain. I won't butcher that pronunciation. It's in Andalusia, Spain, somewhere around there, something like that. But it's at Real Club Valderrama, which means that we are looking at Jon Rahm for this one. He's going back home for this tournament. I would expect a guy like him to be able to play well. Some other guys that, of course, I'm going to be watching out for this weekend. It's Joaquin Niemann, who has had such a fantastic season. Tyrell Hatton, who's coming off of a win at Nashville. Jon Rahm had a T3 at Nashville. Bryson DeChambeau a T3 at Nashville. Absolutely expect a lot from him. Cam Smith, Luis Oosthuizen, a lot of guys. Sergio Garcia going back home in Spain will also be fun to watch as well. Sergio Garcia will not be in the field for the Open Championship, but I believe all the guys that I previously mentioned will be. Luis Oosthuizen, Cam Smith, Bryson DeChambeau, Jon Rahm, and Joaquin Niemann, and Tyrell Hatton all should be over in Scotland next week. For the Real Club, of course, I'm not going to be able to see too much about the course breakdown because this is the Live Golf Tour, and that's just kind of they don't give the course information too much. Besides that, it's a par 71 and it's 7,000 yards, which is pretty typical. I can see the yardage, but that doesn't really matter too much. There is a good amount of short par 5s that should be fun for Bryson DeChambeau, like a 564 par 5, 557 par 5, very scoreable opportunities. There's also a par 4 that is 370, a par 4 that's 351. Both of them are very drivable for Bryson DeChambeau, so expect him to be very, very, very aggressive this weekend as he looks to run up the score here. I don't believe that I can see the golf odds for the Live Golf Tour, and yeah, I can't. I was pretty... Actually, maybe I can. Oh, okay, I can. So Bryson DeChambeau is the odds-on leader for this one at a plus 650. Him, John Rahm, and Joaquin Niemann are up towards the top. Other guys like Tyrell Hatton, all the guys that I mentioned. Brooks Koepka is plus 2,200. He hasn't been playing too good of golf, so he's going to be down there until he proves otherwise. Same thing with Dustin Johnson. He's had a pretty difficult season. I'll just say that. He's plus 4,000 for this tournament. I don't know, can I bet, or not can I bet, but is there a way to see teams? I don't think so. Maybe there is. No. So I can't see the favorites for the teams, but I would say probably, of course, the Crushers are going to be the team that are favorited here. That is Bryson DeChambeau's team, but that team has kind of ran things in Live Golf this week, or not this week, but this year. Looking at just the leaderboard, it is not just Nashville. Anyways, it's the Crushers that are in first. It's Legion 13 that are in second. And then I believe it's Torque and Ripper pretty much right behind them at third and fourth. But it's those top two teams that have ran away with things. So it's those top two teams that I expect big things out again this week. Of course, that's DeChambeau, Casey, Howell, the third, and Larry for Crushers. And Rahm, Hatton, Vincent, and Surratt for the Legion 13. So the Live Golf Tour looks to be pretty interesting this weekend. I, of course, will be tuning in as it is my job. But it also is just entertaining, and I like watching Bryson DeChambeau play some golf. But I also will be definitely watching the ISCO Championship. That one looks like that's going to be a very interesting and exciting golf tournament that is running parallel with the Genesis Scottish Open. So if you don't want to wake up at 1 a.m. to watch the Genesis Scottish Open, nobody's going to blame you. That's completely fair. You can definitely go and check out some other great tournaments. So that'll wrap it up for our fourth segment of the night, talking about the rest of the world in golf. When I come back with my fifth and final segment of the night, we'll be talking about my picks and predictions for the Genesis Scottish Open. Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We are on to our fifth and final segment of the night, where we are talking about my picks and predictions for the Genesis Scottish Open. As I mentioned, I really am looking for the guys with the best wedges for this weekend. Best around the green play is something that I like to look at when it comes to the Genesis Scottish Open. And Justin Thomas, of course, is third. CT Pan, fourth. Davis Thompson, fifth. So these are the guys that I'm going to be looking. Alex Noren at 12. Colin Morikawa at 13. These guys are the ones that I'm going to be looking to get some value out of. Tommy Fleetwood, 25. Max Homa, 26. So when I go over to the, the betting odds, I'm looking at, the names that I mentioned. Tommy Fleetwood at plus 1,400 to win is looking pretty good, and a plus 120 top 10, I would like that a lot. Alex Noren plus 4,000, plus 700, plus 300. That's not bad. Slash line for a guy like that. Who was another name that I mentioned? CT Pan or Davis Thompson as well could definitely be a good shout. I believe Davis Thompson might be a little bit too rich for my blood. Yeah, at plus 2,800, I don't know if I would count on him to go back-to-back after just winning his first. I don't think that that's good enough odds. If I'd be honest with you. But a Thomas Dietrich could definitely be good. Plus 1,800. I believe he doesn't have too bad of wedge play where it'll go against him. Or he's 146th. Maybe not. 146th might be a little bit outside of the desired maybe outside of the desired range that I would want for a tournament like this. But, you have the favorites. You have the Rory McIlroy, the Justin Thomas, and the Ludwig Oberg right now as the favorites. Who out of those three do I like the most? Of course, talking about who I would probably pick if I had, gun to my head prediction for this weekend. It would probably be right now. I might just not like any of those three. If I had a gun to my head prediction right now, it might be Tommy Fleetwood, who tends to play well in Scott or overseas tournament. Maybe a Ludwig Oberg. If I had to pick one of those top three guys, one of the favorites probably, if you're looking at this leaderboard from today, who should be the favorites, it would probably be those three guys. I'd probably go with Ludwig Oberg, not Justin Thomas, just because I don't trust Justin Thomas to do it for 4 days straight. We've seen it plenty this season where he gets off to good starts or he has a good round in the middle and it makes him fly up leaderboards, but he just can't be consistent enough to win all 4 days and finish with a 72-hole lead. He hasn't been able to win since that 2022 PGA Championship. So until he proves me wrong, until he proves me wrong, I will definitely, very similar to the Jordan Spieth kind of discussion that we have pretty often on this podcast. Until he proves me wrong, I'm going to be a little more timid about him. But I wouldn't be shocked to see him win this one. I just wouldn't bet on him right now. Ludwig Oberg is not a bad one, though. Fantastic golfer. One of the best swings I've ever seen. And when you look at just, his PGA Tour profile, this guy does everything well. Looking at his PGA Tour profile right now, if my computer wants to go a little bit faster, just his results this year have been so impressive. He has 2 different second places at Pebble Beach and the Masters. He has an 8th at the Players. He has a T5 at the Memorial, T12 at the U.S. Open. This guy plays some good golf at some pretty difficult places. So, overseas, and it's overseas. He's from Sweden. Of course, he played college golf in America, but he is from Sweden, kind of used to these courses. His win on the PGA Tour came last year at the RSM Classic, which I don't know if I could draw too much correlation to this golf tournament and that one. However, I wouldn't be shocked to see him do well. He did get cut last year at the Genesis Scottish Open, but once again, this guy can definitely go out there and win it. I wouldn't take too much into account his stats from last season. just all around one of the best golfers that we have on tour. Strokes gained total 8th, strokes gained off the tee 14th, strokes gained approaching the green 9th. Around the green, it's 87th. So if there is a problem in this golf game, if there is something to be a little bit worried about, it would be his around the green play here, especially because that is what you want. But if he is just able to hit greens in regulation, he doesn't have to worry about getting up and down. He hit 15 greens in regulation today. He has hit the most, or he's had the most rounds with 15 or more greens in regulation on the PGA Tour this entire year. So a guy like Ludwig Åberg could just kind of not need to worry about around the green play and just hit greens. And if he is able to putt well, he's able to win this one for his second career win on tour. I wouldn't be shocked. He is 4th in the official world golf ranking as well. A guy like Ludwig Åberg can definitely win this weekend. Now a little bit down the board, let's go 5,000 or more, kind of long shots here. Max Homa at plus 9,000. He's top 30 in around the green play. So if you're going for a very long shot, he can definitely win a day and put himself back into contention. But I probably don't like too many of these way too far down here, guys. Guys like a Max Grazerman or like a Harris English, Thorbjorn Olsen. I just think that they're a little bit too far out right now. If there's any one of these, way down the board guys to make a comeback, I would probably like a Hideki Matsuyama, but he's injured. He is the best around the green, he is the best on tour around the green. He is the best wedges on tour this season. But, of course, the injury has kind of plagued him the last couple of weeks, so you don't know what you're going to see, so I don't like it as much. But if I know that I'm getting Hideki Matsuyama, I wouldn't mind a plus 2,500 top 10 for him, or, if you want to toss a $1 on a plus 60,000 and end up at, I think, 600 payout. I mean, that's not too awful, and especially for a guy like Hideki who has won this year. I think he won the Genesis, actually, the other Genesis tournament. So he can definitely win. He can definitely shock some guys by coming back here. But if I want to stick to my best bets, I would probably say Ludwig Åberg. I would probably do Tommy Fleetwood to win. I don't like the board too much this weekend, but I would have said before today, I think Justin Thomas over Jordan Spieth was plus money, and I probably was gonna, if this podcast was yesterday, I would have said to take it. Now it's way minus, like probably minus 900 or something like that, or probably not even available to bet on. I would have said to bet on it yesterday, but you guys can take that as me saying it in hindsight. I promise you it's not, but hey, I did like Justin Thomas this weekend. I talk about around the greens. Of course, Jordan Spieth is fantastic around the greens, but just not as good because of the wrist injury this season as compared to seasons in the past. Where is he actually at in around the green play? He's 91st, which is such a fall from grace for Jordan Spieth, who historically, when he was in his prime, looking at like the 2016 or 2015-16 season for him, around the greens, he was 24th putting. He was second strokes gained total. He was 5th in 2015-16, 2014-15, year that I believe he won the Masters this year. He was 9th in putting, 7th in around the green, 2nd in strokes gained total. I mean, he was unbelievable this year in 2014-15. And you can see why. He was dominant in all fields of the game. But around the green and putting is really where he made a name for himself. But this season has just kind of completely fallen off. Putting, it's 72nd. Around the green, it's 91st. Approaching the green, it's 106th. So, big fall off for Jordan Spieth to where he's just like not even in contention. And Justin Thomas has taken over, that rivalry. So I definitely like Justin Thomas going into this weekend. But you can't bet on that anymore. Hopefully that you guys could read my mind and got a slip on that when you had the chance. But with that being said, I believe my pick right now is Tommy Fleetwood. Going into the weekend, it was Tommy Fleetwood. He played pretty well today. He is only 3 back, so I can't wait to see how he finishes. Tommy Fleetwood, yes. So that'll wrap it up for this Thursday edition of the GSMC Golf Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in to the GSMC Golf Podcast. All the support is much, much, much appreciated. You guys, if you want to, if you enjoyed the episode, like and subscribe on YouTube. It would mean a lot. And also rate us on whatever podcasting platform you guys are listening to this on, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It would also be greatly appreciated. And if you want more content and update from the GSMC Sports Network, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the GSMC Sports Network. Thank you all one more time for tuning in. All the support is much appreciated. Have a fantastic and wonderful evening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.